Good evening and welcome to tonight's City of Burnside's Council meeting of April the 11th, 2023, opening at 7 p.m. Welcome to everyone here and to those watching at home. Just to alert you to the date of the next Council meeting, which will be held on Wednesday the 26th of April, because Tuesday is Anzac Day. Before we begin, please turn off your mobile phones and place them on silent now so that the meeting is not disturbed. Mask wearing is optional. Please stand and remain silent during the acknowledgements. We acknowledge that the land we meet on today is the traditional land of the Kaurna people and that we respect their spiritual relationship with their country. We also acknowledge the Kaurna people as the original custodians of the Adelaide region and that their cultural and heritage beliefs are still important to the Kaurna people today. We pay respect to the cultural authority of Aboriginal people visiting and attending from other areas of South Australia and Australia. On behalf of the City of Burnside, I gratefully acknowledge and pay respect to all those who have sacrificed their lives for this country and its people. We also consider in our thoughts all those who today are being affected by war around the globe, and especially those in Ukraine. And as we're moving closer to the one day of the year, we also remember the Anzacs. We will not meet again until after Anzac Day. Finally, we seek guidance in our debate as we make decisions that will impact on the lives of all who reside, study, work in or visit the City of Burnside. Grant us wisdom as we serve our community. Please be seated. You'll need to use your microphone to register your intent to enter the debate and wait until I have asked you to speak. Please turn off your microphone when you have finished speaking and be respectful and patient while listening to each speaker and not interrupt or interject during the debate. Each person, as a reminder, has 3 minutes with a warning bell at 2. And now to the agenda. Don't need to go through many of those, emergency procedures, live streaming, etc. We do have apologies from Councillor Zing, who's unwell. We have a leave of absence from Councillor Cornish, who is away. Declaration of interest reminder. Is there anyone who wishes to declare an interest?
I have an interest in item 11.1, so I will ask the Chamber if I may make a presentation and then I'll leave the Chamber.
I have also a conflict in 11.1, but I will be leaving the Chamber, but I will respectfully stay if you agree to allow Councillor to speak. Not interfere with any debate or make any comment. Now, sorry, I've lost my place. Anyone else who has any declaration to make? Right, then we shall move on to confirmation of minutes. I seek someone to move those minutes, please be received. Councillor Turnbull, you have movings. Seconded by Councillor Hubel. All those in favour? Against? Carried. We don't have any public question time or any presentations or deputations this evening or any petitions to receive. So I will work my way through and seek those who wish to withdraw these for debate. The first one being 11.1. I don't have anyone on the screen here. Councillor Harvey, you wish to withdraw that one?
Sorry?
You wish to withdraw the first one for debate?
Yes.
11.1?
Yes.
Right, thank you. Eastwood Community Centre. Councillor Wilkins. Thank you. Access to Marrickville Shopping Centre. Councillor Davey. Library closure. Councillor Turnbull. Finance end of the month. If there's no one withdrawing that, then I seek someone to... Councillor Henschke, you wish to?
No. Move.
You're moving, so? All right, thank you, Councillor Henschke. Seconded by Councillor Dawes. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Sorry, 11.6, the Chief Executive Officer's report. Councillor Davey. Mayor's activity report. Councillor Henschke, you're moving. Right, seconded by councillor Turnbull. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Fleet management policy. And I seek a mover. Councillor Hubel, seconded councillor Hallett. Those in favour? Against? Carried. Portions of 56, 58, 58A and 58B Salep Street, Beulah Park. Proposed land purchase, 11.9. Councillor Hallett, you're moving it, or you wish to withdraw it for debate? Okay, I thought that might have been the case. So councillor Davey, you're wishing to withdraw it for debate. 11.10, Urban Forest Management Framework, councillor Davey. CEO Committee meeting minutes, councillor Dawes, moving? Moving, seconded by councillor Turnbull. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Right, now we'll start working our way through. First one is 11.1, is councillor Harvey.
Thank you, Mayor. I wish to move the following: that council notes the report and that council takes no further action.
That is correct.
Sorry, what was that?
If you move an alternative to the motion that is before you, you have to be able to explain or justify the reason or reasons why you are changing the motion. That's stated in the report, and it is required under the Act. And I need to vacate this chair, but I will remain in the room so long as, depending on whether or not you agree to a statement being made.
Madam Mayor, I might be able to help the meeting.
Yes.
I think procedurally we should be dealing with the conflicts of interest first, and
okay.
perhaps seeking Councillor Davies' statement, and then I'll encourage both parties
to leave the room. Yep.
And then we can have the conversation about what the motions may or may not be going forward.
Okay.
Where's your motion? Okay, so we have to come up with reasons.
Councillor Hallett, do you wish to move to hear the statement from Councillor Davies? Yes. Thank you. Need a second for that.
I'll second that.
Right, Councillor Wilkins, you're seconding. Right, all those in favour. Councillor Davies, could you just turn your microphone on, please? Right, all those in favour of hearing Councillor Davey? Those against? Right, then it is to be heard. I will vacate the chair and I'll sit in the gallery until it is finished.
Just for the sake of procedure, once Councillor Davey has delivered a statement, I'll then seek an acting chair for the meeting to go forward.
So thank you. I can proceed. Thank you. Thank you all for the opportunity to provide my perspective on these serious allegations contained in this report. I attended the 2022 Burnside election vote count on Greenhill Road, Tasmore, on Saturday the 12th of November at 4:01 p.m. What should have been a straightforward conversation with an Electoral Commission officer to clarify my queries re the order and timing of the ward counts was complicated by a sudden severe storm, which meant the entrance to the count centre was unprotected when the doors opened. Also, as shown in the CCTV footage, there were power interruptions to the lighting and the capacity of the doors to open and close. I did not expect, nor should I have been exposed to, an assault, both verbal and physical, from a man I knew, acting as a scrutineer, I assume for his wife, elected as mayor. He was waiting in the foyer and had no business interfering in our conversation, especially with the aggression demonstrated, as shown in the CCTV footage, which I understand is being shown to you tonight. Unfortunately, my assault, quite visible, was not picked up by Miller Olsen nor mentioned in their report. I accept that my exchange with the Excel officer, lasting less than 3 minutes, in which I pointed out the lack of communication about the progress with counting of the votes, plus the unusual location of the count site, could have been more courteous. I was reeling from the interruption and frustrated with EXA and the administration, as previous election vote counts had been held in the ballroom, which provided a foyer for interested parties to check on progress over the 2 days of the count. So that's the mayoral count and then the ward counts. If my voice was raised, it was due to the noise from the wind and storm, and my frustration was not helped by the interference from an assault by Mr. Monceau. I had no intention to disrespect or demean an Electoral Commissioner officer carrying out his duties. I returned to the count site briefly, as instructed, to check the scheduling of the ward counts, and found again frustrating that there was no communication. It did not seem reasonable that candidates were not given a list of the audits of the count. While I may have been impatient in my discussion with him, I did not see him visibly upset as claimed, and do not believe that I in any way systematically or other way bullied him. I believe that many of the statements made against me in the anonymous complaints are not factual. They are biased and subjective beliefs of 2 residents who were scrutineers and actively supported other candidates for election, perhaps very disappointed when I was successfully re-elected and who were determined to discredit me.
Sorry, Councillor Dave, I just need to deal with the point of order.
We have no idea who the complainants were, and it would be inappropriate of Councillor Davey to speculate as to who they are.
Yep, point taken. At this point in time, given that this chamber deemed them to be accepted that confidentiality was requested, I just ask Councillor Davey just to refrain from using their names. Thank you.
When hearing the EXA officer's statement to Mella Olsen, I wrote to the officer on the 2nd of March this year, see page 130 of the report, where I apologised to him in writing if my behaviour was discourteous. As a result, I won't read it out because I'll run out of time. I also draw your attention to page 131, where the senior electoral officer made a contribution. As a result of the detail provided in the CCTV footage of 12th and 13th of November...
Councillor Davey, would you like an extension of time?
Yes, please, if I may.
How long do you think you
Since
need?
I had an interruption in the...
How long do you think you need?
Another minute, please.
Is the room comfortable with another minute?
Yes.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, as a result of the detail provided in the CCTV footage, which was obtained because Mella Olsen asked for the CCTV footage to verify the allegations, it became obvious that I was not only verbally assaulted but physically assaulted. So on the 9th of March, I attended Norman Police Station, made a complaint and signed an affidavit alleging the assault on the 12th of November. This was supported by the Burnside CCTV footage sent to SAPOL by my lawyer. I was advised on 29th of March that Mr. Monceau had been spoken to by police in regards to this matter and cautioned regarding his behaviour. I am the victim here and was assaulted going about my lawful activities. As a councillor who has served my community for 16 years, I believe I understand and have demonstrated my commitment to my responsibilities and duties under the Local Government Act. Unfortunately, I think there remains some residual bitterness among some council members over the actions I supported in response to the bad behaviour of a councillor 5 years ago. I think this is possibly what has contributed to the animosity present in this vexatious code of conduct complaint, and it's regrettable it has been allowed to proceed to the lawyering up stage and not mediated before now. It is, I believe, a huge waste of people power and council resources, and I ask that you agree to take no further action on this matter. And thank you for allowing my statement.
Thank you, Councillor Davey. I'll now ask for nominations for acting chair. Yep. Oh, I'm happy to deal with the nomination while I'm waiting for Councillor Davey to leave the chamber. Who would like to nominate? Certainly.
Would Councillor Davey like to stay and not participate but hear the rest of the discussion?
I think Councillor Davey's already declared a conflict and indicated she was going to leave the chamber. Actually, can I... I'm actually feeling very uncomfortable chairing this. I actually do require a chair to be sitting here rather than the CEO to be chairing. So I'd like to put a chair in place. If you could reserve that question for the chair, please. Who would like to nominate for chair this position, please?
Oh, sorry.
I have one nomination for Councillor Dawes. Do you accept the nomination, Councillor Dawes?
I respectfully decline. I'd like to be involved in the debate. I had a nomination myself of Councillor Wilkins.
Okay. Councillor Wilkins?
I would like to be in the debate, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Do we have any further nominations for chair?
Chair,
Sorry,
can
Councillor.
I nominate again?
Certainly.
I'd like to nominate Councillor Henschke.
Councillor Henschke, do you accept that nomination?
Yes, I accept.
Thank you. Now I'm assuming there are no further nominations for chair. Councillor Henschke, if you'd like to come forward and assume the chair position.
Thank you. Councillor Hallett, Councillor Harvey, can ask your question again. Thank you.
I'd like to change the motion because if council...
Sorry, Madam Chair. It's important that we deal with the question from Councillor Hallett first.
Apologies, Councillor Harvey. A question from Councillor Hallett. Thank you.
In the interest of fairness, I'd like to ask Councillor Davey if she would like to stay and not participate, but listen to the debate.
Sorry, Chair, I just need to give some input onto that request. Due to the fact that there's a material conflict of interest, neither party is entitled to remain in the room during the debate.
Okay, thank you. Moving now to Councillor Harvey to move the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to move that Council notes the report, that Council takes no further action, because if Council considers To force or pursue this matter, it will further damage council's reputation with ratepayers and its community.
Thank you, Councillor Harvey. Now seeking a seconder.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Councillor Hallett.
I also reserve my right to speak to it.
Now the mover of the motion. Would you like to speak?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Jane Davey is a trusted and respected councillor in her community who has been elected for a 5th term and I believe has been denied natural justice and has not let her community down. I was present outside the council foyer on Saturday the 12th of November and witnessed all the unfolding of events on that day. The truth needs to be told. Councillor Davey was asking questions to the electoral officer regarding the election process and counting of votes and timelines, as did many other councillors over the 2 days. At no stage during this conversation did the electoral officer ask Councillor Davey to leave the atrium, and I refer to this letter from Olivia Hanna, who is the Senior Electoral Officer, confirming that. 2 scrutineers were nearby. On seeing Councillor Davey talking to the exit officer, a male scrutineer flew out of his seat to Councillor Davey and proceeded to bully and assault her while she was in conversation with the exit officer. He had no right or reason to become involved. Why was he allowed to police the door? These scrutineers were there to do a job, scrutineer and nothing more. Instead of any mediation, the matter progressed to lawyers who were immediately called in at an outrageous cost to ratepayers of over currently $15,000. No mediation, no discussion, no justice. It was just a witch hunt. I was not called on by these lawyers, Mella Olsen, as a witness to these events. Councillor Davey did in fact suffer an injury to her hand from her umbrella blowing inside out and stabbing her from the storm. These 2 complainants are faceless, nameless and cowards, hiding behind confidentiality. Why are they being protected? It is a total conflict of interest. I understand that Councillor Davey has reported this to SAPOL. As we can see, Councillor Davey should have felt safe on entering the realms of the Burnside Council atrium. She has not breached any part or code of conduct. Councillor Davey has been asked to apologise to these cowards, one of whom has assaulted her. This is completely unjust. This has been a spiteful, vengeful and political attack on Councillor Davey by those supporting other candidates for election.
Okay, it's point of order called by Councillor Jones.
I don't know who the complainants are, and Councillor Harvey shouldn't speculate on who they are.
Microphone, please, Councillor.
I was there, Councillor Harvey.
One moment, Councillor Harvey. Just one moment, thank you. Thank you. Councillor Harvey, would you please refrain from naming the individuals?
I have not named them.
Or inferring, pardon?
I have not named them, nor have I referred anything about them.
We have a point of order indicating that they understand there is inference, and that's the point of order.
If I may, Madam Chair, for the sake of clarity,
finish?
Certainly, but following, when you finish, we will play the CCTV footage as requested.
Thank you. This defamation has attempted to bring Councillor Davey's character and integrity into question when it shouldn't be. Please vote for this motion in support of a woman who is a victim of male harassment. Councillor Davey, who has done nothing wrong, in innocently attending the council foyer. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harvey. We'll now be playing the CCTV footage.
Oh, sorry.
One moment.
Sorry, my mistake. We're now required to move into confidence before we can do that. Apologies, Madam Chair.
Thank you, CEO. We'll be moving into confidence. Need a motion to move into confidence, please. Seek a mover. You put your hand up. Yep. Councillor Jennings moving into confidence and seconding.
I'm seconding.
Councillor Dawes. Thank you. All in favour? Carried.
Through Madam Chair, I'll just ask our members of the public just to give us a few moments while we go into confidence to consider this video footage. Thank you.
Thank you. So the seconder has reserved her right. Can we hear from anyone else who would like to speak?
Can we see the motion?
Right, we'll have the motion before us on the screen, please.
Ask a question, finally.
Right. We're just waiting for the administration to type up the motion. Thank you.
Am I allowed to ask a question while this is happening?
Yeah. Thank you. While we're waiting for the motion to be typed up, we have a question from Councillor Turnbull. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Chair. I'd like to know how lawyers define assault. What is assault? What's the parameters around assault?
As I said to, I think it was Councillor Hallett not too long ago, I'm not a criminal lawyer, and I'd feel uncomfortable giving the council advice on the definition of assault. I believe it's in the Criminal Law Consolidation Act of 1936, but I couldn't point you to the specific section. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be flippant. That wasn't my intention. I could look it up if.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. And while Mr. Smith is looking it up, are there any other questions? Are there any other questions while we're waiting for the motion?
Madam Chair, I believe Councillor Harvey can just clarify the last bit of the motion for us.
Thank you. I found the piece of paper. And the motion is changed because if council continues to force or pursue this matter, it will further damage council's reputation with ratepayers and its community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harvey. Are there any other comments from the chamber? Yes, certainly. We'll wait for the final words of the motion being typed up. Now, Councillor Harvey, the mover, please confirm that the motion as typed is correct on the screen. Would you mind reviewing the motion as typed is correct on the screen, please? Thank you. Would you mind reading the motion that's been typed up by the administration that's on the screen and confirm that the wording is correct? Thank you.
That council notes the report and takes no further action, because if council continues to force or pursue this matter, it will further damage council's reputation with ratepayers and its community.
Thank you, Councillor Harvey. We're now open for debate. We have on the screen here, is it Councillor Hubel is in the queue first? Councillor Hubel. Councillor Harvey, your screen, yep.
Again, with questions, and forgive me, this is related to information we've received, while we have been considering this motion. So I really want to get it straight in my head about the regard we should be giving the alleged assault. Because my understanding is that the allegation of the assault was considered, but we've been given information this evening, and I guess new perspectives that are outside the report, and being asked to consider them in line with the report. And I would appreciate some commentary from administration about the weight we should be giving information that we've just been given, as opposed to the information that was provided for the agenda.
Through Madam Chair, I think it's important to note here, as administration, we've kept a very arm's length process from this for good reason. I might refer that question to our legal counsel.
Sorry, can you just repeat to summarise really briefly? We were given the papers, and we're considering the issue according to what's in the papers. We've been given extra information, and this is perhaps, again, outside the scope of your expertise, because it may very well be a legal government law matter, in which governance may have some perspective. But I'm a bit at odds in terms of whether I should be assessing what's in the papers in making my decisions, or whether I should be assessing the materials that have been distributed as well as the first part, and then I'll have a follow-up depending on how that answer goes.
I'm not sure whether it's appropriate for me to answer that question. I think it's, at least in my view, a matter for council and yourselves to determine, based on what's before you, what the appropriate determination is. I'm sorry, that's not very helpful.
Thank you, Mr Smith. Thank you, Councillor Hubel. Now we move to Councillor Turnbull.
I'm just asking Mr Smith if he could define assault, please.
I did manage to look up the Criminal Law Consolidation Act of 1935, not 36, my apologies. Section 20 provides for the criminal offence of assault, and I will caveat the section that I'm about to read with the fact that this legislation has been in place for a very long time, and the words used in this section would have been judicially considered by a number of courts at varying levels, such that the words in this section may be open to interpretation. And a criminal lawyer with expertise in that area, which I am certainly not, may be able to give an indication as to the interpretation of those words, but I cannot. So, with all of that in mind, Section 20, assault, subsection 1. A person commits an assault if the person, without the consent of another person, who is defined as the victim, A, intentionally applies force, directly or indirectly, to the victim, or B, intentionally makes physical contact, directly or indirectly, with the victim, knowing that the victim might reasonably object to the contact in the circumstances, whether or not the victim was at the time aware of the contact, or C, threatens by words or conduct to apply force, directly or indirectly, to the victim, and there are reasonable grounds for the victim to believe that I, the person who makes the threat, is in a position to carry out the threat and intends to do so, or I, there is a real possibility that the person will carry out the threat. D, the person doesn't act of which the intended purpose is to apply force, directly or indirectly, to the victim, or E, accosts or impedes another in a threatening manner. Subsection 2, however, subsection A, conduct that lies within limits of what would be generally accepted in the community as normal incidents of social interaction or community life cannot amount to an assault, and B, conduct that is justified or excused by law cannot amount to an assault. Subsection 3 provides that a person who commits an assault is guilty of an offence, and there are a number of penalties that apply depending on the gravity of the offence. And subsection 4 provides that a person who commits an assault that causes harm to another is guilty of an offence, and similarly there are a number of varying penalties that may apply. And as I said, I'm not a criminal lawyer, and the report certainly did not delve into whether the alleged conduct directed towards Councillor Davey amounted to assault, and as I said previously, the information that has been provided by South Australia Police simply confirms that Councillor Davey was cautioned, that the person who directed this alleged assault towards Councillor Davey was cautioned, but as I understand it, no charges have been laid and no further action has been taken. And whether that suggests that there wasn't an assault that actually took place, I can't comment on that, unfortunately.
Thank you, Mr Smith. And we have another question from Councillor Hubel.
I'll keep him rolling. I am wondering, and it's hard to make sense of, given the redacted names in the report, and obviously there are people that know things I don't, how this alleged assault relates to which of the 4, or if any, allegations. Can I have some insight on that, please?
I think I can answer that. I believe that it was allegations 1 and 2 during which the alleged assault towards Councillor Davey occurred, and as I understand it, allegations 3 and 4 did not involve the alleged behaviour that constitutes assault, according to Councillor Davey and her solicitor.
Thank you, Mr Smith. And we now have Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not coming up as red.
Okay, Councillor...
Councillor Hallett was next to speak. Okay. I'll go off.
Well, hey, as if by magic. Sorry. Now I'm going to ask a question about the Local Government Act, which I believe you should be qualified to ask about. The complaints, as I understand it, are largely about the conduct of person A, Councillor Davey, to person B, being the supervising officer. Is that correct? And that's what you're assessing whether there's been a breach of Local Government Act on. Is that correct?
It's not only the conduct of Councillor Davey towards the electoral officer, it's also the conduct of Councillor Davey towards the two scrutineers that are referred to.
Right, so against, so A to B, C and D.
That's correct. And that is all detailed in the report.
Yeah. Now, so then the following question is, if person E is rude to person A, does that give person A free rein to be rude to person B under the Local Government Act? Or are councillors held to a certain standard of behaviour?
I don't believe the Act or the Code of Conduct provides for that. It's a judgment of the elected members or the subject members' behaviour.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now we have Councillor Hallett.
I've actually got two questions.
Thank you.
In order to ask the two questions, I'd like to ask you if you would read the assault section again, B, what the clarification of assault, and it was part B.
So, sorry, can you please restate your question? You're asking about the definition of assault that I just read out?
And I'd like to hear part B, please.
I believe you're referring to subsection 1B, which states a person commits an assault if the person, without the consent of another person, i.e. the victim, intentionally makes physical contact directly or indirectly with the victim, knowing that the victim might reasonably object to the contact in the circumstances.
Thank you.
Another follow-up question?
Yeah. To me, it seems very, listening to that, observing the video, what we saw, and taking into account that there has been the police have made a caution to the complainant, to me that represents that Councillor Davey was telling the truth.
Thank you. We now have...
And the other question is...
Sorry, that was you. Yes, I was just going to note that, and the administration would have noted that you have spoken to the motion now. So I've got nodding from the administration saying you've spoken now.
Can I ask another question?
Yes, you can ask another question, and while you've got the microphone, go ahead. Thank you.
I just wanted to ask, there was a question asked why the council staff weren't approached and interviewed for the report, but I'm also wondering why, because we clearly saw Councillor Harvey standing outside those doors, and when we at our first meeting ever of this council, Councillor Davies said that she saw everything that happened, and so I'm wondering, well, what Councillor Harvey, sorry, why she wasn't interviewed.
Councillor Davey, I believe, informed us that Councillor Harvey was not present during these conversations but remained outside, and I believe the CCTV footage reflects Councillor Harvey remaining outside.
Yes, she did.
In the morning of, the afternoon of the 12th of November, which was the first day of the weekend.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. We now have Councillor Hubel. Councillor Hallett, thank you. Your microphone. Councillor Hubel.
Thank you. Another question. I'm still not feeling that I'm getting an answer to, I guess, a question that I feel is intensely important in my assessing of this. This advice we've received, is this to be considered as part of our decision-making process, given that it's just been supplied to us and the information in here was not subject to the compiling of the report that makes a conclusion that a code of conduct breach occurred.
Thank you, Councillor Hubel. We'll go to the administration. Thank you.
Through Madam Chair, I guess from my perspective, my responsibility is to give council all the information so they can make an informed decision. Obviously, initially we had the investigation report published in the agenda, and then as late as this morning, we received a request from Campbell Law, and in the interest of making sure I'd fulfilled my duties to provide council with all the information I felt appropriate to provide it. Ultimately, the decision rests with the elected members as to which information you choose to take into consideration.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Carley. And we now have Councillor Harvey next.
Thank you. So, Mr. Smith, in your opinion, would it be fair to say that assault is the unwanted physical contact of another? Thank you.
I'd like to just reiterate that I have no experience in criminal law, and the definition that I've read out of assault under the relevant legislation I think speaks for itself, subject to the caveat that I gave that there is years of case law interpreting how these provisions are to be interpreted in light of community standards, and I'll bring council's attention again to subsection 2A of section 20 of that Act, which states that conduct that lies within limits of what would be generally accepted in the community as normal incidents of social interaction or community life cannot amount to an assault, although I simply raise that to bring it to the council's attention and not to make any call on whether the alleged conduct directed at Councillor Davey does actually constitute an assault at law.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. And now we have Councillor Hubel.
Thank you. This is a question for the administration, governance specifically. Is it appropriate for us as a chamber to be making a finding of criminal culpability? Would that be ultra vires? Are we in a position to say, yes, that is an assault? Or are we in a position to say, no, that is not an assault? Or are we only in a position to consider it as an alleged assault because there has only been an allegation, but there has not been any record of a finding? It's a very serious phrase, and it's a very serious distinction that's occurred that has a very fine criminal line, and I just want to be really clear as to whether we are considering that an assault occurred or are we considering that it didn't occur, and if we are unsure, is this chamber in a position to be able to make that distinction or that finding or that assumption?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Which I feel we're being asked to do.
Yep. For clarity, this council is making decisions with regards to the Local Government Act, and in particular to the report that's before you that is being dealt with under the provisions around Council Code of Conduct. The matter about the assault is really a matter for SAPOL, and to make determinations around that is SAPOL's jurisdiction. So for this council, whilst you are being asked to make decisions in this matter with regards to the motion that was originally before you and now the alternate motion you had before you, in no way is this council being asked to make a formal determination around whether it was an assault or not an assault. That is SAPOL's jurisdiction.
Thank you, Mr. Cowley. We have Councillor Hallett.
I'm just finding it really hard to believe that council is struggling with the question of that basically that a man doesn't have the right to touch a woman without her permission. It's simple. I can't understand why.
Excuse me, Councillor Hallett, is that a question or because you've spoken before?
Well, I'm saying I can't understand why.
Is that a question, or can you just reframe? Can you ask a question?
Okay. What is the problem that some of the councillors are having with understanding that a woman has a right to say, this is my body, you don't do anything with my body that I don't give you permission to, including grabbing me by the arm?
Thank you, Councillor Hallett. For that question to the administration.
Through Madam Chair, I just don't believe that was a question for the administration.
Thank you.
No, I asked it of the other members here who seem to be struggling with that concept.
Right. Thank you, Councillor Hallett, for the question to the chamber members. Yeah, would anyone else like to ask any more questions?
Yes, I did.
Or comments?
Oh, come on.
Councillor Turnbull.
Thank you, Chair. Mine's a rhetorical question too, in a way. The big question is for me, was the disrespect shown, or alleged disrespect shown by Councillor Davey, exacerbated by the interference of the alleged assault by complainant B? So I suppose it's a rhetorical question, but one we need to think about.
If the council pleases, I can probably provide some brief guidance on that and draw your attention to page 4 of the report, where we identify the 4 allegations that were made against Councillor Davey. Allegations 1 and 2 relate to Councillor Davey's conduct in the afternoon of 12 November 2022, which is when I understand Councillor Davey alleges that the assault occurred, whereas allegations 3 and 4 relate to the following day at approximately 8:50 a.m. and 11 a.m. respectively. And as far as I am aware, given the vague nature of Councillor Davey's descriptions of the alleged assault, I don't believe that there was any behaviour during those 2 allegations that are the subject of Councillor Davey's complaint to SAPOL. That's my understanding.
Thank you, Mr Smith. Councillor Jones.
Can I ask 2 more legal questions?
You can. Whether I can answer them is another question.
Am I right in thinking that councillors are not immune from the laws of defamation?
That is correct.
Am I correct in thinking that a person is innocent until found guilty by a court of law?
I'd say as a general tenet, yes. I'd probably prefer the term not guilty until found guilty, but it's probably semantics for council's purposes today.
Right, thank you, Mr Smith. Councillor Hubel.
Thank you. Further question, still getting my head around the fresh information we've received this evening. And I've been very careful not to make a judgment on that. In regards to allegation 3, is the scrutineer referred to in allegation 3, is that the same person as the complainant of allegations 1 and 2? Or is that a different individual on the next day?
That is a different individual. To clarify, that is not the person who is alleged to have directed the conduct towards Councillor Davey, which is alleged to have been an assault.
Thank you, Mr Smith. Councillor Dawes.
Yes, I think I'll now speak. I think I'll start it off. I think, look, it is tough adjudicating on a colleague's behaviour, and I think this is probably the 3rd or 4th time over the last 5 years this has occurred. This wouldn't have happened if Councillor Davey hadn't been in the Civic Centre at the time, and that does concern me, I have to say. She talked about, in her statement today, about frustration, but this does not lead to poor language from a public official, and she is a public official. It doesn't lead to aggressive interactions with the Electoral Commission. And from the CCTV vision, it did not help me. I'm sorry, it did not help me. I saw no objection from Councillor Davey to anything that occurred there. I saw the opposite. And my final comment, if someone tells me to F off, I'm sorry, but that is bad behaviour and we should condemn it. And so I just cannot agree with the motion before us tonight.
Councillor Hubel.
I, hypothetically, assuming that we discount allegations 1 and 2. So if we were to hypothetically take them out of the equation, and I apologise if I'm putting you in a difficult position here, if we were to consider, or if you were to have considered allegations 3 and 4, so namely the allegations that occurred on the Sunday, on the 13th, so just allegations 3 and 4, I'm trying to phrase this eloquently, but would you still be in a position where you would be making a finding that a breach of the code had occurred? And a follow-up to that, would your recommendations for action be the same, or would they differ if 1 and 2 were taken away?
To answer the first question, the report considers each allegation independently, and you'll see on, I hope you have the same page numbers as I do, page 34, paragraph 8.24, we found that there was a breach of clauses 2.2, 3 and 4 of the code with respect to allegation 3, and again at paragraph 8.35. On page 35, the same finding, breaches of clauses 2.2, 2.3 and 2.4 with respect to allegation 4. And yes, I think our recommendations would be the same. That is a public apology to those people identified in those 2 allegations and for a censure motion for the reasons expressed in the report, namely that the behaviour took place during the counting of the election.
Right, if there are no more questions or comments, we'll go back to the mover. Is there a question from Councillor Hallett?
No. Okay.
No question. Councillor Jones.
Look, I'll speak to the motion. The Local Government Act is pretty clear about what our responsibilities are. Now, I'm not the greatest fan of the Local Government Act. There's no doubt that it holds councillors to a standard well above normal members of the public. It holds councillors to a standard above members of Parliament. There's no doubt about it. But if you don't like it, resign. The fact is, that's what the law is, and if you run for council, you're stuck with it. Council has followed what we're required to do under the Local Government Act. We've had a preliminary investigation. We've had a follow-up investigation. The follow-up investigation has concluded that Councillor Davey breached the Act on at least 3 separate occasions, breaching numerous of the rules. I just don't think you can get away with that, and I don't think you can excuse it by an alleged assault on the first day. It's pretty clear The evidence of the Electoral Commission supervising officers pretty clear. Councillor Davey has written him a letter of apology for her behaviour, which is kind of saying, yeah, I accept it. So I personally, I think I have no choice but to vote against this motion. I don't think we can say we're not going to take any action because that would reduce the esteem of ratepayers and the community towards the council, because frankly I think that's happened already by this incident and being published. So I'd have to vote against it, and I think we should move the recommendation of the investigators and draw a line under it.
Councillor Turnbull.
Thank you, Chair. Look, I've been mulling over this for ages, several days plus now, and suddenly it's clarified to me. We did ask for a report. Breaches of the Code of Conduct have been established. Councillor Davey has expressed a degree of contrition, and in her words, has made an apology for my outbursts, and in the heat of the moment, made under pressure, etc. These are really at the lower end of the serious scale, aren't they? Just these verbal things. Okay, anyone who comes in dripping wet, speared yourself with an umbrella, unhappy with how things are going, you are going to snap. Or a lot of people are going to snap, and she did. So the alleged assault, although it has a bearing, to me, the actual thing was the Code of Conduct for being aggressive and disrespectful, and not good for the image of the public for us, for Burnside Council. So I'm actually going to be happy to accept the recommendations of the report too.
Councillor Wilkins.
Thank you, Madam Acting Mayor. I'm actually going to support this motion. I do agree with the report in that there is a complaint. Councillor Davey has acknowledged she used inappropriate language. She has acted in the spur of the moment, totally frustrated, dripping wet, etc., etc. She acknowledges it's not her normal behaviour, and she has written an apology to the persons present. Great. But also, we saw on screen the action of somebody who came bowling in from the left-hand side of the screen, wanting to push her out of the door, intentionally made contact and used words and actually physically contacted her and trying to get her out the door. It was an appalling day. My daughter also told me the next day, when she was scrutineering for me, when the ward was being counted, she was constantly having to open the door in that narrow area where scrutineers were corralled. She was having to open the door for everybody else who was wanting to come in and find out what was going on, because this is not normally the way we count votes at Burnside, which actually compounded everybody's anxiety as well. So I support the motion. I think it's vexatious. We had to do it because Jane actually acknowledged she was at fault in language and manner. I applaud her for doing that because it's not her usual form. I just call it vexatious. What a waste of money. And I'm just appalled that we have to do this of our co-ward councillors. So I will support the motion that we take no further action. And because we acknowledge on this report from SAPOL that there has been an incident that needed to be reported. And if that person, I won't go on.
Right. No one. I have now Councillor Hubel.
I have a question again. I'm referring to the attachments, and I'm not sure which page. I'm asking about what page number, because I see a apology letter on page 130 of our papers. Mr. Smith, I don't know if you have access to that or not. Which I feel seems to have been sent directly to that person. So I'm making a jump and assuming that we're talking about that's allegation 4.
Excuse me, Councillor Hubel.
Is that correct?
Was your question?
Is that correct? That the letter from Councillor Davey to the Electoral Commission, is that in reference to allegation 4?
Mr. Smith, thank you.
Without looking at the allegations again, and I can if you'd like me to do so, but I believe the letter to Mr. Raphael at the Electoral Commission related to all of Councillor Davey's conduct directed towards him on over those 2 days.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Councillor Turnbull.
I have a follow-up.
Right, yes, apologies. Councillor Hubel.
Is administration aware of an apology from Councillor Davey to the scrutineer that's the subject of allegation 3?
I can answer that, and I'm not aware of any such apology being given to anyone other than Mr. Raphael at the Electoral Commission.
Councillor Turnbull.
I'm sorry, I've had a remull over this, and I will not accept the recommendation. I'll accept the one that's there, mainly because of the last bit about the alleged assault, and that was not mentioned in the report. It just changes the whole bearing, and I'm sorry to mess everyone around, but I will vote for the recommendation that's there. Thank you.
Thank you. Just be wary, we can only accept questions if you've already spoken. And I have Councillor Hubel.
Thank you, and I will speak now. And I thank everyone for their patience while I get my head around the nuances. I am a stickler for doing things by the book, and I really just wanted to get it clear in my mind what I could and could not. Okay, I'm back. So I thank everyone for their patience while I get this. I'm a stickler for doing things properly and following the appropriate advice, and I feel I've gotten to a point where I'm comfortable with my mind about what we need to consider. As a very open feminist, I'm very sensitive and receptive to this letter that we've been given this evening. And I would be inclined to give more mitigation to this than was given by the legal advice we've gotten. But I still see that there has been a code of conduct breach by Councillor Davey in terms of allegations 3 and 4. I acknowledge that there was a letter written that addresses allegation 4, but I still see a void in terms of the scrutineer at the subject of allegation 3. And I don't think it would be appropriate for us to vote for this motion and willfully go against legal advice that we take action specifically with regards to allegation 3. I don't see that there's been any action taken by Councillor Davey in terms of allegation 3, so I can't vote for this motion, and I think it brings us actually into disrepute by acting against legal advice. So we've been given legal advice to interpret things in a certain way, and I haven't been convinced, specifically against allegation 3, that there is a good enough reason for us to disregard legal advice, and I think that would actually damage our reputation. So, while I would be comfortable, and in myself, discounting allegations 1, 2 and I feel 4 has been apologised for, the issue of allegation 3 just still hasn't been resolved for me.
Right, we have, everyone has spoken except for Councillor Jennings. Give you an opportunity, Councillor Jennings, to speak, if you wish. Thank you. Right, we now go back to the mover. Apologies, we'll go to the seconder and ask whether you wish to speak. Councillor Hallett.
Yes, I do wish to speak.
One moment, just clarifying with the administration on governance here. I have some information coming. Yes.
Sorry, Madam Chair, just been informed that whilst Councillor Hallett initially reserved her rights, she then spoke. So must go back to the mover.
Thank you for that clarification, the administration. We'll now go back to the mover of the motion to sum up. Thank you. Councillor.
Excuse me, I reserved the right. Right, when I said I second the motion, I reserved the right.
She did. Once. She's saying twice.
I did say that.
I might just refer to Ms Reynolds for clarification, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Through the chair, when the seconder reserves their right to speak and they speak at any point during the discussion, that is taken to have spoken. They don't then get the right to speak again at the end before the mover is summing up.
I ask questions. I want to speak. I feel like that's not on.
Move that Councillor Hallett is allowed to speak again.
Thank you, councillors. Just one moment, attention. Thank you, Councillor Hallett. I will allow you to now to speak as a seconder. You were asking questions. I appreciate your attempts to ask questions. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank the council for hearing me speak. The reasons I'm seconding the motion include: 1, I consider that the video evidence supports Councillor Davies' position about how the alleged incidents took place. 2, the male complainant manhandled Councillor Davey. No man has the right to touch a woman without her permission. In the circumstances, I consider that Councillor Davey responded as many women would have to a man laying his hands on her body without her permission. She swore at him. 3, the independent investigator identified in 32.1 that the breaches are towards the lower end of seriousness. 4, the report notes that the pre-existing animosity of the scrutineer complainants towards Councillor Davey. The Electoral Commissioner's supervisor stated his impression was that they knew each other and had some history and it looked pretty personal. 5, the Electoral Commission's supervisor evidence did not disclose any unreasonable or inappropriate conduct from Councillor Davies towards him. That's 8.10. Councillor Davey has 16 years of service to the community. 7, Councillor Davey has made apologies to Council and to the Electoral Officer and to the Electoral Commission of South Australia. 8, the Electoral Commission South Australia, in this case the experts, has written to Council stating, among other things, that there was no concern about the candidate interfering with the count process. That's attachment D. 9. The independent investigator did not interview other witnesses to determine their experience of the events, at least one of which we know supported Councillor Davies' evidence. 10. There is a need to take into account that Councillor Davey had been severely provoked prior to using a swear word to the scrutineer complainant, who actually had no authority to admonish or provide advice to Councillor Davey or to the Electoral Commissioner Supervisor. In conclusion, I ask Council to consider each of the above facts. It is my belief that if Council continues to pursue this matter, it will bring Council into further disrepute with ratepayers in its community who rightly consider that such matters should be resolved in-house and should not involve lawyers and legal fees. Censure is an expression of strong disapproval or harsh criticism. Without understanding who the complainants are and the basis for their identified pre-existing animosity, see 32.33, I believe it would be a miscarriage of natural justice for Council to decide to censor Councillor Davey. I therefore urge you to support the alternative motion, Councillor Harvey's motion.
Councillor Harvey, summing up, thank you.
Thank you all very much for your input. You have viewed the CCTV footage and the results.
Sorry, excuse me, Councillor Hallett, your red light. Thank you. Councillor Harvey, can
Thank
you
you all
start
for
again?
your input. You have viewed the CCTV footage of the incident and seen the results. There has been no justice for Councillor Davey. I am asking for it now. I ask you, does a police report not amount to anything? Are they wrong? I don't think so. This has been a huge waste of taxpayers' money, ratepayers' money, council resources and money to date. There has been no complaint from EXA. Councillor Davey has indeed publicly apologised to EXA for raising her voice during the storm and if she was discourteous. This alleged rude behaviour took place in a public place that was not open to, in a place that was not open to the public. As I said, the electoral people did not make a personal complaint against Councillor Davey. I believe this is a vexatious complaint made against Councillor Davey to bring her character and integrity into disrepute. Assault, I just looked up on my phone, is very simple. It is the unwanted physical contact of another, and that's exactly what happened in Councillor Davey's case. Please support this motion so we can get on with the real business of what we need to do in council and stop further legal costs to our ratepayers and community. I hope you all support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harvey. Now show of hands. As a vote, pardon? Oh, excuse me, sorry. Those in favour of the motion, Councillor Harvey. Those against?
Can we please have a division?
We declare it has been carried, the motion's been carried, and a division has been called. I set aside the decision. All those stand in favour. Councillor Wilkins, Councillor Jennings, Councillor Harvey, Councillor Hallett and Councillor Turnbull. Thank you. Those against, stand. Those against, Councillor Jones, Councillor Hubel and Councillor Dawes. Thank you. Declare the motion carried.
I have a question without notice.
Councillor Hubel.
I'm wondering if administration has an opinion at this point about where we might stand in relation to the complainant of allegation 3, who doesn't seem to have been considered by the debate or the summing up.
Through you, Madam Chair, given that Council's now made a decision, I don't think it's appropriate that I provide any commentary further on the matter. I'm sorry, I just think it's appropriate that we move forward from here. Thank you, Madam Acting Chair. I'd like to thank you for chairing. It was a challenging item, I think, and so thank you very much for that. I'll now ask Madam Mayor to retake the chair. I think it's appropriate, just while I wait for our chair to come. I'm not sure if I'm able to do it, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to suggest a 5-minute break. Does that sound okay? Thank you. Regain our seats at 5 to 9.
I'd like to move for 10 minutes break.
I'll second it. No chair.
I suggest... No, let's keep some formality. I might ask our Madam Chair to ask for an extension of time. A break of 10 minutes.
Right. 10-minute break. Show of hands. Yes, go ahead.
Right, 11.2, that was Councillor Wilkins.
Oh, here we go. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll actually sit to speak to the motion that is on you before you on page 132 of your booklet. It's regarding the Eastwood Community Centre funding request, and I will be moving the recommendation that's printed on page 132. That is, you note the request from the Eastwood Community Centre that you endorse the inclusion of the annual grant funding of $65,000 to the Eastwood Community Centre in our draft budget and for the following 3 financial years. And you authorise the administration to release payment of the annual funding to Eastwood Community Centre following the presentation of the outcomes report, the latest audited financial statements of the board, the funding acquittal report, and a declaration detailing the funding expenditure at the end of the previous funding period. And in speaking to this, I just remind you that the Director, Leanne, spoke to you at our last meeting detailing the work of the centre, which is well and truly illustrated in the booklet that was passed out to you at that time, which tells you all the projects and programs that we offer. I want to remind you that the Eastwood Community Centre has been at the very heart of the community in Eastwood since 1870 to 1890, when it was the newly built Methodist Church. It was in fact opened on May 31st, 1880, and the cost I found out in this interesting book called The First 100 Years of Burnside was £350. And the names associated with its funding and early history are a roll call of the first residents of this early community: Tucker, Brown, Ralph, Whitrow, Barrett, Rowe, Dring, Viney, Stayson, Trelaw. It was closed down in 1960 when a bigger Methodist church at Unley, with the popular organ, became the most popular church in the neighbourhood. The faithful local supporters called the church Little Glory, and it deteriorated until in December 1976, the Burnside Council responded to the local needs and suggestions of community and voted to buy the building as part of its community welfare program. And where do I get all this information from? 270, 271, the paddocks beneath. That's the Burnside Bible written by the former teacher and resident Elizabeth Warburton, who died, unfortunately, in 2016. Diana Chesler, a local historian, remembers when she began a playgroup and a kindy here, and the late Councillor Sue Howard, who lived in John Street, was involved in the centre at that time. So community has been at the forefront of the Eastwood Community Centre for such a long time. I first joined in 2003 and supported the late Mari Spedding, who was the fabulous, energetic, visionary centre coordinator at that time. We then selected Sue Ross, who carried on that leadership baton, and since her retirement, Leon Isaacson is leading the community with vision, energy and commitment. In all that time, the board and coordinators have always sought external funding to underwrite the adult community education programs that are so popular. They provide enjoyment, education and fun to people who are interested, unemployed, unwell and maybe on low income, both young, middle-aged and retired. In the long weekend in October 2008, I planted up the garden space, which, can I move an extension for a few minutes? Thank you. Which was created from the rear car park.
Can I clarify that? 1 minute.
Thank you.
1 minute.
Thank you. With council funding, thanks to the staff then, Barry was on staff then, as was Simon Bradley, and it was built and planted in the commemoration of the effort that Mari Spedding had made to this centre. We're currently rejuvenating the garden again, and the current Eastwood Community Centre lives up to the vision of the original founders and residents who funded and built this small heritage Methodist church in our neighbourhood. It is a great promotion for Burnside Council. It draws many participants from across Adelaide to this particular ward in council. And I'm very proud to represent all the Eastwood residents who are supportive of this motion to provide additional sums to the community centre. Please support the motion as detailed on page 132. Thank you.
I seek a seconder.
Oops.
Councillor Jennings, you seconding?
Yes.
Do you wish to speak now?
I'll reserve my right.
All right, thank you. Councillor Turnbull?
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to move an amendment, actually. In the number 2, leave it as the draft budget and annual business plan for 2023-24, full stop, and omit "and the following 3 financial years." May I speak about why?
Yes, you need to.
Good. My reasoning behind this is that we, as ward councillors, last council meeting spent ages and ages deferring, postponing, taking out all of our council member budget bids, capital budget bids, everything bids, in order to keep our rates an acceptably low level for our residents. And here we are proposing to support the Eastwood Community Centre with $65,000 for 4 years, which is $250,000, over $250,000. If we just do it for 1 year, finance them for 1 year, maybe the administration can talk with other councils, maybe Unley Council, and get some funding from elsewhere, and that would help us a lot. So I'm proposing that we don't do it for 3 financial years, just for 1.
I seek a seconder to the amendment. Sorry, you want
I just got some point of
to...
clarification.
Wait a minute, we need microphone off, please, Councillor Turnbull.
Just a point of clarification, Madam Mayor, from a government's perspective. It's actually not an amendment as such. It's actually an alternate motion by virtue of the fact that it's cutting out
Deleting out.
the majority of the funding.
So therefore, this first motion would need to be defeated, and then you would be able to run that as an alternative motion afterwards, all right? Okay, so I'll now see if there's anyone else who wishes to speak. Councillor Dawes.
Yeah, I just, I know, just going on from Councillor Turnbull, that we're very worried about what the rates will be for next financial year. And that has not yet been determined. I would have preferred that we'd look at a 5% increase in year 1 to 63,000, because I think that would be more in line what we are hoping to achieve for next financial year, and then at least that amount for the following 3 financial years. And therefore we are applying the same percentage increase as what we would be doing to our ratepayers. Now that may not be agreed and you might stay with 65. It doesn't mean it will be 63 for the following 3 financial years, at least 63. But I'm just wary of our very tight financial climate at the moment. So that was just a suggestion from me if this doesn't get up.
So anyone else wishes to speak on this?
I'd like to support the centre actually getting 3 years' worth of funding. I think that when community services operate on annual budgets with no guarantee, they really have to provide short-term measures. They have to employ people on very limited contracts. This will allow them to actually plan ahead and provide better quality programs, I think. So I would actually support the 3 points in the recommendation.
Councillor Davey, are you okay to speak now?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. While I understand and support Councillor Turnbull's idea that we are watching every penny and wanting to keep rates down, I think from memory reading the program, listening to the deputation that was made, sorry, I think a key of her presentation was that they need to do long-term planning and some strategic planning, make sure their services are linked and ongoing, as Councillor Hallett has mentioned. So while I think this is reasonable to consider at this stage. I really think that guaranteed funding for that time, as has been worked through with the administration and Eastwood, is better for their planning and their service delivery. So while I understand the sentiments, I can't support this.
I have no one left on the screen, so I'm going back to Councillor Wilkins.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Oh, wait a minute, we didn't have a seconder didn't speak. Councillor Jennings, you haven't spoken. I have to give you that opportunity before I go back to Councillor Wilkins.
I have lived in the Glenunga Eastwood ward for 22 years, and my eyes were opened when I was invited there, and I heard about the services they provided to many of the community, whether recent new migrants or just people who have disconnected from life and have just found a new community to be joined into. With their air conditioning, they were really incredibly self-sufficient, getting in touch with another organisation and getting it sorted out without having to go cap in hand to, say, the Burnside City Council. So I really support this motion. Thank you.
Now, Councillor Wilkins.
Thank you, Worship. I urge you all to actually support the recommendation. I toted up here 35 programs that are covered throughout the range 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 areas of programming, 35 instances of classes throughout the week, plus the program that is conducted during the evening. I actually attend the, can I say, the night, we've had about 4 or 5 nighttime shows out in the garden, which have been attended by some of the councillors here, plus a lot of residents with the community, and also people who find the programs on Eventbrite and actually log in there and buy their tickets. I've actually also attended Tony Adie's Cooking with Men's class. I'm the token lady, and go along with Tony on a Wednesday night. Fantastic. There's a whole program, usually about 6 weeks, and people have booked in from all over Adelaide, even Mark Borlace from RAA and his partner one night. Fantastic. You get to know people from all over Adelaide, even at Eastwood, Cooking with Men. So I urge you to support it. And I would also point out that Leanne and the staff at Council have been working solidly with the centre management to actually ensure that the centre is actually working really well, and they support the funding. We have just financed the aircon, as Councillor Jennings mentioned. We've also just rewired the centre because we had 6 cooking stations and we needed new electricity so that everybody was quite safe. So we did that, the board did that. I'm not on the board.
Councillor Wilkins, you have gone well.
Thank you. Okay. Please support the motion. No more needs to be said.
Right, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Councillor Davey, Marrickville Shopping Centre, page 162.
Thank you, Mayor. Do I need to read this out? Or I think everybody's very familiar with the motion on the report put up by the administration on access to the Marrickville Shopping Centre. I want to thank the CEO and the staff for all of the work that they've put in with this. It was initiated by a complaint to Council which highlighted significantly the concerns relating to disability access at the Marrickville Shopping Centre, And I think the key concern was that the primary dedicated pedestrian access from Kensington Road footpath adjacent to the pedestrian activated lights to the shopping centre entrance does not cater for people with mobility difficulties. And this includes those who are using walkers, using walking sticks, gophers, prams and wheelchairs. So Council has done a lot of work with the owners of the site, and I'm sorry to say that we have to bear the cost of the upgrade to the ramp, and an indicative design's been done for that. But I don't think we've got any alternative really to achieve what in 2023 our local community expects. And we know that the master plan for this area will help develop this further and improve access as well, but we really do need this ramp at this stage. So I won't say any more. I hope you'll support this. Thank you.
Seconder, please. Please indicate on your... Thank you. Councillor Harvey, do you wish to speak now or withhold?
No, I'll reserve my right, thank you.
Councillor Dawes.
Just a couple of questions of administration. I'm just looking at the responsibilities after this ramp is built. If, for instance, it cracks, I'm guessing that's our responsibility. What if somebody falls over on the ramp? Do they have opportunity to sue Taplin or to sue us because of the way that the ramp was built? Or can you just take me through that, CEO, as to what our responsibilities are post it being built?
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor, I'm not sure what conversations we've had with the shopping centre owner. In my experience, generally a legal agreement is put in place that would essentially pass some of that responsibility onto council. Having said that, it can be handled either way. I might just refer to Mr Harvey as to whether we've had any conversations further on that one.
Through the Mayor, as it would be regarded as our asset and our register, then it would be our liability.
Councillor Hubel.
Thank you. A question, and I'm just hoping that I could have my memory jogged, and this would be for the benefit of the new members as well. I mean, as this relates to a resolution of the previous council, I was hoping that we could just consider why, or revisit the idea of why the disability access from Tusmore Avenue was deemed to not be an option, but accessing from Kensington Road is the course we're going down.
Through Madam Mayor, I might refer that to Mr Harvey.
Through the Mayor, if I recall when this was originally debated, there was a deputation at that time regarding access into that facility. It focused primarily and actually only focused on the main road access, not on the side road access.
There is, as you rightly suggested, there is access currently, but that people have to go round the corner and in along the footpath from the crossing, if they're using the crossing, then up to Tusmore Avenue and then round and then in. So it's a longer way of getting there. Councillor Jones.
Yeah, this kind of follows up from Councillor Hubel. So am I right in thinking that if there was a successful Disability Discrimination Act claim, it would be against the shopping centre owner and they would have to put a ramp in at their cost? Is that correct?
Through the Mayor, hypothetically, it's private land. Access to that private land would be deemed the responsibility of the landowner.
So my follow-up question then is, have there actually been any complaints under the Disability Discrimination Act to the Australian Human Rights Commission?
Through Madam Mayor, not that we're aware of.
Councillor Henschke.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A question for the administration. Can you please confirm that the supermarket has disability access from Tusmore Avenue or does not have disability access from Tusmore Avenue?
Through Madam Mayor, I might refer that to Mr Harvey.
Through the Mayor, there is at-grade access via Tusmore Avenue. Yeah, so there's at-grade access from the footpath into the centre via that footpath, yeah.
I'd like to ask a question since there's no one on the screen, and my question relates specifically to once the ramp, let's assume the ramp is built, I find this particular car park incredibly dangerous as a motorist, as a pedestrian. And one of the major problems is actually the access from the top of the existing stairs to the supermarket. And I am very concerned that by providing this access without any other form of safety, we're actually putting people potentially in more danger. It's also on, I've inspected it quite carefully yesterday, and it is also on quite a slope, the actual car park itself. So anyone with a pram or a wheelchair or walking frame is actually going uphill in order to get in, as opposed to travelling the extra distance to walk around, which is safer for access. I just want to put that information to you so that you are aware of that information before we move on, because I am concerned about the cars travel through that car park really fast, and they do not wait now for people who are coming up the top of those stairs. I'm still waiting for someone else who wishes to speak. Otherwise, I'm going to go to the seconder, Councillor Henschke.
Oh, thank you, Madam Mayor, for that extra information. I'm just a little bit confused now why this wasn't in the report from the administration. Just makes it difficult for me to make a decision about this now.
To be fair, I don't think that was the mandate of the administration. It was about constructing a ramp based on that. Yeah, it was a resolution of council to go ahead and design a ramp and negotiate with the owners of the land to go ahead and do something about improving access. Now, did you want to ask anything further, Councillor Henschke? Yes, of course. Then I'll come back to you, Councillor Jones.
Shall I?
All right, thank you. I'll just quickly speak. Right, technically then the supermarket has got disability access from Tusmore Avenue, and we're asking ratepayers to fund another disability access by council on the main road. And then we've heard the Mayor has raised some issues she's experienced with the car park. So I just feel more work needs to be done on this project before we can commit in our very tight budget this capital expenditure, which wasn't included in our budget planning. So that's what I'll prefer to do, is defer this decision until more work is done in developing the project and looking into taking into account everything we're hearing tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Henschke. Now, Councillor Jones.
I agree with Councillor Henschke. I don't think we should be spending ratepayers' money on this. If this entrance to the shopping centre is non-compliant, it's a matter for the private landlord to fix. And there's perfectly well-established legal means under the Disability Discrimination Act for that to happen. As far as I'm aware, there hasn't been any complaints to the shopping centre owner, otherwise they'd have done something, or the Australian Human Rights Commission would have told them to do. So as a result, I can't see why we're spending public money to private benefit when we've got so many other things that we might like to spend money on. And we've said, well, we can't afford it. So for me, I'm sorry to say, is a no.
Councillor Wilkins.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just looking at point 15. Apparently we've got a Marriotteville master plan development has commenced. And I presume disability access to this supermarket is being part of that master plan. And if that's the case, can we delay this? And I happen to think that why isn't Woolworths with their buckets of money and the Taplin Group actually doing this themselves for the benefit of the whole community that purchases from them? That's what I think. And I think we need some more investigation on this. And if we're doing it under the Marriotteville Master Plan and coming out with an appropriate solution to the safety of the whole of that car park, and I agree, I've been in a tight corner or two in that car park, then that's a better outcome. So I think more discussion needs to be had under the guise of the Marriotteville Master Plan before we make any decision to support the ratepayers' request, wherever this came from, on the 11th of October 2022. I won't support it currently.
Does anyone else wish to speak? I have no one on the screen. So I don't believe the seconder spoke. Councillor.
Thank you.
You need to now.
Thank you, Mayor. I will support this motion. This is a very complicated car park with little room to enter and exit this location with cars, let alone wheelchair access. The Marriotteville Shopping Centre was redeveloped in 2005. I'm astounded that during this time there has been no disability access from the pedestrian crossing on Kensington Road to the actual shopping centre for those that are disabled. They have to negotiate getting to the entrance of the centre through the far side car park, and this is just not acceptable. Why has this taken 18 years? Whilst I think it's appalling that the owners of the centre are not willing to contribute to the costs of this disability ramp, I feel something absolutely needs to be done for the disabled. Once again, this is a basic human right for our disabled to safely access the shopping centre without fear of being run down, entering or exiting the car park. So I will support this motion. Thank you.
Right, shall now go back to Councillor Davey.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, everyone, for your contribution. For those who are new to Council, this was a matter that was raised at the meeting in October last year, when we had two of our members of our community who were disabled who came to make deputations. One was Martin Godfrey, who's wheelchair bound and who he lives in Kensington Park and has great difficulty accessing the centre from the pedestrian crossing into the shopping centre. And the other was an elderly gentleman who likes to walk from, again, Kensington Park, across the crossing, and has found that with his wife and her walker, they have to negotiate around, right up from the crossing, up Tusmore Avenue, and then into dealing with all of the car traffic that comes from there into the shopping centre. I thank the staff for they made deputations. Council actually decided that they wanted and directed the administration to follow up and make all of these contacts to see who could upgrade the access. That's on page 163. And they were directed to contact the Human Rights Commission, Taplin's, Woolworths, and as we have seen, there are varying degrees of cooperation that have been given to our administration. I think that all we can do is, as is indicated on page 184, respond that, as Taplins have so generously said, they will allow us onto their property to improve the access, and there is an indicative design already drawn up there. I think while, as Councillor Wilkins has said, we have about to go into the planning stage for the Marrickville Precinct Master Plan to look at the traffic and upgrade that whole area. I think we can't really avoid going ahead with this and making this investment at this stage. So I hope you'll support this. I think this has been allowed for in the budget. So I think we should go ahead and support our increasing community that's at least 6% of disabled people. So hopefully you'll support it. Thank you.
Those in favour? Those against? The motion is lost. Division has been called, so those who voted for, please stand. Councillor Hubel, Councillor Jennings, Councillor Davey, and Councillor Harvey. Those against? Councillor Jones, Councillor Wilkins, Councillor Henschke, Councillor Hallett, Councillor Turnbull, and Councillor Dawes. Thank you. Now we move to Councillor Turnbull, library closure, page 205.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I previously raised this matter because of the concerns raised to me by residents who are concerned that the Burnside Library was closed for 9 days over the Christmas New Year period. But in this report, council has recommended that Burnside Library opens on non-public days, holidays, during Christmas and New Year as a service to the public. Yay, and a service to the public it will be. Thank you on behalf of those who may live alone and have limited access to family and friends over this period. For them, the library, where they can go and read and to borrow, is also a place for some form of socialisation. Those who are from another country and are residing here with family overseas may be studying here and are unable to return to their country for Christmas. Mums and dads who may both be on holidays and want to engage with their children at the library. People who are holidaying at home and wish to go somewhere that doesn't involve retail. People who rely on the library for internet access. Categorising is difficult, but thank you from us all. Last year's closure of 9 days, 4 of which were non-public holidays, caused angst for many people. By not closing this much utilised and enjoyed facility, we'll be living up to our charter, that is, to represent our residents to make their lives better. I thank the team for preparing this report. I do hope that you will support this recommendation. I also note that for the library closure over Easter, a large illuminated sign was erected in the car park, much easier to see, so thank you again.
Councillor Hubel, you wish to second? Sorry, Councillor Turnbull, you could turn your mic off, please.
Yes, I'll reserve my right, I think. Thank you.
Right. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Councillor Hubel, you're it.
All right. Yay, indeed. Libraries are awesome. I think it's one of the most important things we provide, and as a society, we need to value our libraries and we need to protect them kicking and screaming, and anything to enhance the library or the library experience, that service, that beautiful, wonderful space that means so many different things to so many different people. 100% no-brainer. Let's do it.
Right, go back to Councillor Turnbull. Do you wish to speak again? Can I put the motion?
Thank you. Said it all.
Right, I shall put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Motion is carried. Now we move to Councillor Davey, Chief Executive Officer's report, page 225.
Thank you, Mayor. I move in accordance with the recommendation. The Council receives and notes the CEO's report for February. I think this was delayed a bit from the last meeting, last monumental budget meeting. I just wanted to, not even any questions, I just wanted to say thank you for the forward plan, attachment A, which is essential that we have each month. It really helps us keep track of the resolutions that we put up and being able to follow their status, because we often get asked by our community what's happening and where it's at, and especially if there's been a period of community consultation like we've just had with the Beaumont Common Management Plan. There is just one question. Oh, and the other thing is too, future agenda reports. That also is fabulous for us to know when we've got possible future workshops and other issues coming up. The one question I do have is on the 40k per hour speed limit areas, and I don't want to put anyone on the spot, but I just wondered what sort of community response we had in terms of 40k per hour responses. Are you aware of that and you're able to give us a clue?
Yeah, certainly. Through you, Madam Mayor. At a very high level, we have got some data. Has Mr Harvey got that at hand? If you don't, we've had, my understanding, over 2,000 responses. I won't share the data broadly. It's very high level. We haven't analysed it properly at this stage. But we've had, to my mind, exceptional response.
2,190 responses according to Bernie Ulrich.
There you go. Yeah. So, no, very good response rate. That covers all the 7 odd areas that we're looking at.
Councillor Dawes, you wish to second?
I'll second and ask a question. For the CEO and also for Mr Harvey, I think there's a change to page 233, number 3 of attachment A, that Councillor Davey mentioned, attachment A. The Lockwood Road vehicle speed, you said that was a target date of May 2023. I think it's gone out to June. I just want to make sure it's either May or June because it might appear in our focus article, that's all.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Mr Harvey?
Yep, through the Mayor. The commitment was that we would bring that report back within the financial year due to other commitments and priorities over the course of the year. We have kicked that one off, but we won't be able to bring that report back until June.
I have no one else on my screen, so I'm going back to Councillor Davey. I'll put the motion then. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Next one is Councillor Davey, portions of 56, 58 Salep Street, Beulah Park, page 265.
Thank you. I'm happy to move in accordance with the recommendation. I won't read it out, but it's quite extensive up on the... but it basically authorises the CEO to negotiate the purchase of portions of 56, 58, 58A and 58B Salep Street, Beulah Park, approximately 48.1 metres squared, with some criteria for the maximum value, land division application being approved, and any conditions that the CEO considers appropriate. Remove the classification from community land, declare the subject land to be a public road, as in Salep Street, Beulah Park, and use the common seal. I think this is one of those wonderful anomalies that we come up against every now and again in our wonderful historical city, and Beulah Park is no exception to that, where from time to time people, for new councillors, from time to time people do land surveys or actually assess the land titles, usually when development's happening or some other sort of engineering development, and we find that they've been wrongly, surveyed, thank you. And that's what's happened here. I don't know what the trigger was. I can't recall what the trigger was to indicate this, but the map on page 271 and the description of the asset considerations gives a good indication of where there's some common property, where there's verges that are actually privately owned, and this is essentially just to correct that sort of that whole situation. I believe the residents are generally disposed to consider going down this path, so I'm happy to support this and hope that you will.
Did you have something you wish to add?
Through Madam Mayor, it was just to provide a bit of insight. It was a combination of the property boundaries were abnormally further forward than the balance of the street, combined with the fact that the property owners, for whatever reason, have chosen to build back from their property boundaries. So to the common observer, i.e. When we're forming our verges, it would have appeared that we were constructing in the appropriate spot, but just by those two anomalies, it's how it's come about.
Councillor Dawes, you're seconding?
Yeah, I was seconding. I'll just say, I hope there are no more anomalies in Burnside.
Bound to be. Councillor Jones.
Look, I'm obviously the Grinch who stole Christmas tonight, but I think this is a waste of ratepayers' money buying this land. And look, I thank the owners for pointing out they own the land up to the street, and good luck to them. If they don't want a footpath outside their property, then fine, we'll take it up, and they can own the land out to the street. And let's save our $50,000 or whatever it is. I'm not sure it's in the report, but whatever it is, it must be there's a dollar value quoted, isn't there? So,
4,800.
yeah. So, no, there's a value of up to a amount per square metre, I believe. So, anyway, 875 times whatever square metres. Again, I'm saying, if you want to enforce this and not have a footpath outside your house, so be it. And we'll spend our $20,000 on water fountains for the thirsty folk of Rose Park and Turret Gardens. Or we could plant a few more trees, except that's operating rather than capital. I'm not going to support, alas.
Councillor Henschke.
Oh, thank you, Madam Mayor. Excellent suggestion, Councillor Jones. And question for the administration. By buying this strip of land, what is the width? I'm sorry, I just was studying the map and I wasn't able to see the width of the footpath verge we would create. What is the width of the verge we'll create compared to other verges? Is it narrow or the same width?
Through no means, I might refer that to Mr. Harvey, but I imagine it creates consistency.
Through the Mayor, that is correct. It will be consistent as a footpath all the way along. It won't actually increase any verge space. It will just be the same as it is now. Just it would be legitimately on public land.
And I think Councillor Henschke wanted to know, is it 1.52 metres, which seems to be what appears on the map, on the plan? Is it 1.52 metres as it appears on the plan? Thank you, Mr. Brennan. Okay, so that's your answer, Councillor Henschke, 1.52 metres.
And just clarifying, that 1.52 is the same width footpath continues down the whole street? Yep, thank you.
I have no one on the screen, so is there anyone who wishes to speak on this matter? Otherwise, I will go back to Councillor Davey.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm happy to put the motion. Thanks very much.
I shall put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? You didn't vote. If you're sitting in your chair, you have to vote. I'll go again. Those in favour? Those against? Motion is carried. Next one is Councillor Davey, also 11.16, page 277.
Thank you. 11.10. I'm actually moving, and I haven't had a chance to talk to the staff, so I'm sorry about this, but I'm actually moving that Council defers consideration of the urban forest management policy as at attachment A to this report, notes the revised urban management framework, defers the consideration of the urban forest management policy as provided in attachment until, add 1, until council can workshop this, the whole, and can workshop the detail associated with this. Is that pending? Yeah. Yes, thank you. Till council, yes, first consideration, pending a workshop to consider the details associated with this. And notes. I just found it incredibly, I mean, there's so much work that's gone into it, and a lot of linking, but we're changing our whole tree management approach and forest, including bringing in the forest, that I think it's not clear what this actually consists of. Is it a standalone document, or is it made up of the urban tree management policy and a draft urban forest asset management plan? Are there other documents associated with it? I haven't seen one that I believe we were asked to provide comment on, but it wasn't clear to me what it was, and so I was I missed the timeline for making my comments. So it really is quite confusing, and I think it needs to be. It could be simpler and more, with better cross-referencing of all the components that the administration are wanting to introduce. So I would really appreciate us being able to workshop this before we finalise it. So hopefully you'll support that too.
I need a seconder.
I will.
Councillor Hallett, do you wish to speak now?
Yes, I do. Actually, I like Councillor Davey. I can see the amount of work that has gone into this, and I've got a feeling that probably if we have a workshop, we'll just understand it better. But I spent hours on this report, and I really couldn't get my head around it. And I think it was because the documents were changing names, or I thought they were changing names. And I really tried. I really, and when I say I spent hours on it, I literally mean I spent hours on it. So I would really, and I watched the video, and that did help, but it wasn't the same as when you can, in a workshop where you can raise questions and get an answer straight away. And probably, I don't even know, at the end of the workshop it might not have changed much, but I just think that I really had a lot of trouble grasping what it was about and how it all fitted together. And I have had quite a long email back from the administration, and that did help me, but I would still appreciate a workshop. So yes, I second the motion.
Does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Hallett, could you turn your mic off, please? Councillor Henschke.
Oh, thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a question. I just clarifying that with the new reforms, local government reforms, we no longer have workshops but information sessions. So can we, this is an information session in the motion? I just wanted to just... Yeah, I just remember we couldn't have workshops, it had to be information sessions.
Yep, so happy to change it to information session, Madam Mayor.
Pending and information. Councillor Davey, are you happy with this?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I sort of get the feeling that there's a bit of, that I'm not the only one who needs clarification. It's things like what is industry best practice? I mean, that's a key thing for me, for our tree management and our regeneration practices. Paragraph 21.1 on page 280 talks about this as a key component of it, but I'm not sure what industry best practice is, and then how we deal with technological advances, which I would imagine the staff are telling us from time to time. We've got some really specific areas that, you know, like Alexandra Avenue, Prescott Avenue, War Memorial, and there's just a huge amount of work, and it's been pulled together with a lot of effort. But I just would like to understand it more before we finalise it all and finally agree with it, and see how all those other links link into the whole framework. So hopefully you'll support this and we can workshop it and get some more information on it. Thank you.
I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Now we move across to sorry, I didn't say that over the microphone, so we'll now go back to 13.1, Councillor Davey, page 337, and we will deal with 13.2, Road Safety City of Burnside, at our next council meeting.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm moving this motion, and again, you would probably recall that we have had deputation on this matter for access for wheelchair users to the Regal Theatre shows and films. And what we initially decided was that there were two levels of motion we had, one for short-term solution, and which is the DDA compliant alterations to up to 4 seating spaces on the ground floor auditorium by removal of existing seating to accommodate wheelchair access with installation of appropriate levelling platform. And this is, while we've got a heritage architect doing all the work that we're doing, this is a great opportunity, and that we do that in this current financial year, 2022-23 budget, with whatever savings are available. And then the administration, Barry's not here, he did a huge amount of work, Barry Cant, on how we could then, in the currently being developed up Regal Theatre Precinct Master Plan project, undertake detailed design for the interior plan that considers best practice, disability access and inclusion improvements, activation, functionality and layout of the interior of the theatre to complement and build on the objectives and features of the Regal Theatre Master Plan, and the heritage conservation and enhancement that's necessary to go with this, and consults with the Access and Inclusion Reference Group on the upgrades, uses their expertise, knowledge and community input on the final additional design work into the overall master plan for consideration of council and its community, consistent with the previously endorsed approach in our disability access plan. So I have had some discussions, and I think there is a problem. I mean, it's good that we can find a solution in the short term, but the recommendation that 4 seats in the centre aisle could be problematic because, and this is in the design on page 339, where they're a great location for the wheelchair users, there's a problem for the patrons sitting behind them. A person in a wheelchair sits higher than a person sitting in the fixed seating in the theatre. So as a result, the patron sitting directly behind the person in the wheelchair will have their view of the screen obscured. That's why the suggestion was made that outer seats be removed and to be able to be slotted in by wheelchair users into their, using their wheelchair. And this keeps the line of sight to the screen for a person sitting behind the wheelchair user on the outer seat, you know, being able to maintain their view. The person who made the deputy, Martin, is very happy to meet with someone from the administration to show them, being in a wheelchair, how he feels this could work. And he recommends that we need to check the standards for wheelchair spaces, because as specified in Australian Standard 14.28.1, he pointed this out to us. I know our building people would already know that, but the offer is there that he would be happy to be involved. He's a member of our Access and Inclusion group, and he's very keen to see that we have the most optimal use of the theatre in upgrading, in doing this short upgrade. So hopefully we can accommodate our wheelchair patrons in a more dignified way than having them. If you recall, the issue was that patrons were left in the aisleway, and that's just not on in terms of dignified disability access. Plus, it's very unsafe in terms of access and egress for other patrons and emergency evacuation. So hopefully you'll support this. Thank you.
Before you speak, Councillor Wilkins, the CEO would like to make a comment.
Through Madam Mayor, I thought it might be an opportunity just to give a quick update. Staff have been quite... I'm sorry?
No, sorry.
Oh, sorry, no, I missed it. Staff have been quite proactive with this one, and I've just confirmed that we've had it assessed by a builder and our electricians, and we can remove those 4 seats quite easily for about $1,000. And just talking to the team, happy to revert our thinking from removing the 4 seats by the centre aisle to 2 seats on either side of the outside aisles, in line with Councillor Davies' commentary. So if this were to be successful this evening, we would proceed that way. Thank you.
I think that's actually a really good suggestion, because I go to lots of shows there, and the live shows at night, people in wheelchairs are always offered the opportunity to sit right in the front, and some of them choose not to. They actually would prefer to be further back, and they sit by choice in the aisle, even though they are offered opportunities to be in the front. And I do take Councillor Davies' point about view, because, mind you, we never have a full house. Well, I shouldn't say that. We rarely have a full house for the movies. We often have full houses for the live shows. So there are 2 different issues here. So I'll now let Councillor Wilkins.
Thank you, Worship. I'm very happy to support Councillor Davey on this matter, having been to the recent consultation with the heritage architect, who's put forward an excellent plan for the internal and the redevelopment of the Regal Theatre, which I fully support, with some exceptions in the outside area design. But when I heard from Graham here at Council, it just awakens your awareness of the disability that some people have to live with. And I think actually the front, and I quite take the point where if you've got somebody in a wheelchair is a little bit higher in front of you, you're dodging left or right to see around them. Why not the centre aisle in the very back row of downstairs, either side of the aisle? Okay, can we have a plinth underneath, because there's nobody behind them? And I think that would be a better location, so therefore they're not obstructing the view from anybody else. I fully support this. We should always be thinking of this. I mean, we've all had to reassess our thinking when we're designing interiors in our homes, in our bathrooms, in our public spaces. So I would suggest the back row, either side of the central aisle, is my preferred choice if I was in a wheelchair, and you're not drawing attention to yourself by having to go right down the aisle. So happy to support this. Well done, Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll just give a bit of commentary on your suggestion, Councillor Wilkins. The removal of the 4 seats at the front is a temporary measure. Okay. And as part of the rebuild, if you like, or the master plan, deliver the master plan, we'll be engaging with DDA experts, and the intention subject to their advice, is that we will be looking at the rear. However, at the minute, the floor at the rear is on quite some angle, and it will need some design work done, which would ideally be done at the time where we're doing the reconstruction works.
At the Festival Theatre, the DDA row at the very back, because I used to be a tour guide there and I know the theatre really well, all of those seats are actually on wheels, so the whole entire back row can be removed, seat by seat, so that a wheelchairs can sit. That's row, I can't remember, Z or something. It's right at the very back row downstairs in the stalls. It's deliberately done that way. Now, that is an option that council can look at in the future. But
the new seats are fabulous.
yeah. All right, Councillor Henschke.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Question for the administration, please. Apologies for not knowing this, but the crying rooms are still functional, are they not? For viewing anything?
Through Madam Mayor, they certainly are accessible, yes.
Oh, great, thank you. So just clarifying then, the scope as presented tonight will also include the crying rooms.
Through Madam Mayor, my understanding is, because the idea about DDA compliance is people are giving the same access as everybody. Sorry, people with disabilities are given the same access opportunities as the general public. So it would be ideal to give them opportunities inside the theatre itself rather than segregated.
Thank you.
Councillor Dawes.
I just want to understand what they can do temporarily. You talked about there was an update. Are you saying that on page 339 that we won't be taking out those 4 seats, we're taking them out at the end of the row? Is that what you're saying?
Through Madam Mayor, yes, that's correct.
All right, so therefore it's far right and far left?
Yes, that's correct.
Of the front 2 rows?
Yes.
Thank you.
Councillor Wilkins, have you got a question?
Yes, I have. A question through you to the CEO. Can you just reassure me, you've just mentioned the crying rooms, are they heritage listed as part of the Regal Theatre? Because they would be specifically the only theatre around, except perhaps down in Tasmania.
No.
Oh.
Festival Theatre and the Humans both have crying rooms.
Oh, fantastic. So we're in a league above everybody else.
That is one of the oldest ones still existing.
Yes, thank you. So it's the oldest ones. I want to see that listed on the heritage detail for the theatre. Thank you.
Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, Mayor. I totally support this motion. The Disability Inclusion Act currently is designed to promote full inclusion within the South Australian community of people with a disability, to support and enhance the ability of people with a disability to achieve their full potential as equal citizens, to promote the well-being of people with a disability through social inclusion, increased self-esteem and confidence. Those in our community with a disability have the same fundamental rights as others. Unfortunately, they often experience difficulty exercising their rights because of the inaccessibility of things like environment, cultural approaches, community attitudes, or a range of other limitations. In this case, we need to afford, at the very least, a comfortable, secure, inclusive area for our disabled to enjoy a movie in comfort like the rest of us, not feel alienated or different. We need to provide this basic right as soon as possible, and I will support this motion. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Otherwise, I'd like to go back to Councillor Davey. Councillor Henschke.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I agree with Councillor Harvey. Thank you. And that point what I wanted to say about the crying rooms is that they also enable someone in a wheelchair to go in there with their baby and watch a show or a performance. So hence my question about the scope of this motion. I assume that would happen, and I will support this motion. Thank you.
Can I also point out that actually the crying room is used for people who are on the autism spectrum as well, because they often are unable to cope with large crowds and noise, and the hustle and bustle before a performance actually can exacerbate their anxiety and condition, and so it actually extends to people with autism as well. both adults and children. And so by having a crying room, and which is one of the reasons why the Festival Theatre and the updated Homage have that as well, for that reason. So it's not just for people in wheelchairs, it's for people who are potentially anxious but have the right to want to attend a theatre as everyone else. Thank you for those comments, both of you, and I will now put it back to Councillor Davis.
Thank you, Mayor, and thanks for that illumination. I didn't realise I've always known, having grown up in the area, the crying rooms, and probably there was more canoodling of teenagers going on that I knew about than as well as parents with babies, but I certainly didn't realise the value of them for our autistic community. But this is our iconic heritage theatre, and I thank the staff for supporting this and recognising that we need to ensure we've got as inclusive access to the body of the Regal as possible, and as soon as we can. We've got an access and inclusion plan which is due for upgrade pretty soon. I think there's a whole lot of opportunities for us to look at, all the opportunities that we can to include our population and visitors to our area, because we want the Regal to grow and be a suitable venue for shows and all sorts of films and activities. So we want to make it as welcoming as possible for everybody. So this is a great step in the right direction. And I would ask that, this does include consultation with the Access and Inclusion Reference Group, and I would hope that the staff will contact Mr. Martin Godfrey, who has a great interest in this area. He loves theatre and the films there, and he's very happy to be a sounding board and to provide help and advice to any plans as you implement those. So hopefully everyone will support this. Thank you.
All those in favour? Against? Carried. Now, the last item on our agenda is a confidential item. I'm also aware of the time, and it is 10 past, and at 25 past I will need to seek additional time if that's necessary. So we now have to go. I need someone to move into confidential. Thank you, Councillor Dawes. Seconded by Councillor Turnbull. All those in favour? Against? Carried. And I'll seek the room to be cleared of those who fortunately have the opportunity to go home.